movie goes out to make almost 300 million, I have like 20 to $30,000 in residuals from a day where I was paid 800 bucks. I look at the life I've had, and I honestly, sometimes I just start crying in gratitude.
My name is Hasia Muhammad, and you are listening to The Actor's Instrument, where we discuss the essential qualities you need to stand out in the entertainment industry. Growing up, my favorite movie, hands down, was Home Alone 3. I've probably watched that movie quite literally dozens of times, like an unhealthfully amount of times, and my siblings and I were so obsessed with the franchise that we would set booby traps around our house to reenact scenes from the movie. Don't tell my mom. I can't tell you just how excited I am to have one of the stars from Home Alone 3 joining me on the show today, Kevin Kilner, an actor whose career has spanned the better part of 3 decades at this point. He is known for his roles in Home Alone 3, House of Cards, A Cinderella Story, Bull, American Pie, Ugly Betty, and the list truly goes on and on. Kevin, thank you for joining me.
Hasiem, thank you so much for having me. It's great seeing you and great hearing you.
Absolutely. Also, I think maybe I used that phrase wrong. I said the better part of 3 decades. Maybe it's the better part of 4 decades because it's more than 3 decades. So maybe I should have said the better part of 4. That maybe is more accurate.
Well, in February of next year, so like
Yeah.
literally in 3 months here, I will have completed my 40th year, uh, as an actor. I got my
Whew.
SAG card. I got my SAG card in November. I did a Miller commercial in November and it was an MLS spot. I was a fireman standing in a line. It was says African American commercial. I was the only white guy in the whole thing, and I was in semi profile. And that thing ran and ran. It probably made me $15,000 in residuals, $20,000 in
Ooh.
residuals. And, if I tuned into any, and I'm a big, huge basketball fan, but if I tuned into any NBA game, I was guaranteed to see it for a while. And
That's
that got
fun.
me my SAG card in November of '85. So yeah, I went to New York in February of '85 to follow a dream, and now I'm coming in on my 40th, my 4 decades, which just,
Man.
as any older person who eventually ends up here, if you're blessed enough to end up, alive still and healthy, you just turn around and go, "How did that happen?" It'll happen to everybody, I guarantee it. You just go, "Wow, time." Yeah, Einstein was right. It is relative. It's just like, really,
Mm,
has 40 years gone by? Wow. I mean,
man,
yes, I know that, but doesn't seem like it in a way. Anyway.
that's amazing. But hey, I mean, 40 years of working so consistently, and that's really gonna be, I think, the maybe the bigger topic of discussion today. Uh, but I wanna start at where you're at now, you know? Like you said, you've been in this game for 40 years. How would you describe this current phase of your career? IMDb shows, that you've been doing a few shorts, you've doing mainly guest star appearances on TV recently.
Right.
Um, what is this
I
phase
think
of the career for you?
yeah, I think you kind of nailed it in the sense that there's certain things I don't want to do anymore at this age. I don't want to be on the road for a long time in a play unless I'm absolutely passionate about the role, director, and cast, I don't want to go for 3 months, to name your city and be away from my home at this point. I would rather do everything is driven by writing for me. Everything is
Mm.
driven by writing except for when I have to, quite frankly, make my SAG health insurance or pay my bills and I'm presented, I don't really care. I've gone back to auditioning for commercials. I've been auditioning for voiceovers for a long time. Last night at about 10:30 at night after I gotten home from I'm teaching acting now to at the American Musical and Dramatic Academy and to 18 and 19 to 20-year-olds mostly. And I have a teaching schedule every week. And when I got home last night, I had an audition that was due in Los Angeles. It was late. But they said, do it whenever you can and send it in. So, here I am at 10:30 at night finishing up. I got home around 8:30 and, I had to go do that. That's also for an interactive video game. It is exactly like someone dropping you into the ocean. The ocean's going to change. You're going to swim where you can. You're going to relax where you can. You're going to try and get to where you want to go to. But eventually the ocean in some ways is going to take you. I started in background work on commercials when I wasn't hustling as a waiter, as a bartender, as a cater waiter. Um, and I was studying acting and didn't know anything and, completely ignorant. And so I thought it would be good to be on sets. So I started as a background actor in commercials. You can make really good money in those days. And in fact, I remember I could make over $400 for a whole day, for like a 12-hour day. And that was really good money. If I did it, two of those a month, then I could help pay my rent, because I lived up on 109th Street when the rent was 550 split between me and my roommate. He and I would split
Oh,
550, which these days are so long gone. But of course, we had a crap dealer in the basement, and it was a very dangerous neighborhood to say the least. I mean, literally, they stripped cars right in front of the street. My parents visited me once, and like all parents who come from a farming community, they brought like a cooler full of you know of fresh vegetables and food, right? And my dad and I are
man.
taking up the stairs. My mom's staying in the car, and she said, I come back and she says, there are these very nice men and they're changing the tires right in front of this. I see them. They're working on the car. And I said,
No.
Mom, they're stripping the car. She's like, they're what? They're whatting the car? I said, they are taking it apart for parts. And she says, isn't that illegal? I said, yeah, it is. She said, aren't you going to call the police? I said, Mom, it's not part of my job. I got to live in this neighborhood. But I started in commercials and background, and I got in front of the camera. I started learned how to book some commercials, did a lot of industrial films. And then I went through a 2-year Meisner program. I studied voice and diction. I studied movement. I went to the Gately Pool Acting Studios at the old Nat Horn Theater, which doesn't exist anymore. I was up on the third floor 2 nights a week, and you had to meet with your partner. There's off days while you were working on all your assignments. Um, so for 2 years, that was my life. And even in the summers, I would take additional classes in the summer, just trying to be a sponge and learn from everybody. I knew nothing. The thing that got me to college was being an athlete. And once I finished college and the sport and everything, and I was a little bit adrift for a while. I was working at a bank, and I knew I hated that, but I had certain organizational skills that the bank had taught me too. So I had a business side of my brain that I knew other actors didn't, like supremely talented actors who, uh, honest to goodness, would be more talented than me for the rest of their lives. They're just gifted, but they couldn't handle the business side of it. I knew I could. So I thought if I even with average talent, I'm just gonna, like as athletes say, as we say to each other, let's just grind. I mean, let's just put in the work. We always got to put in the work. I think that if you have a high will, will is everything. If your will is strong and you get up and you work hard every day on your craft, your imagination. I tell them that. I said, I say, listen, you think you're born with a great imagination. No, imagination can be improved like anything else. It's a muscle. Do you guys meditate? I look at these 18, 19-year-olds, they're like, "Nah, man." A couple of them meditate. A couple of them do. They do it for anxiety. But in a class of 15 or 16, the vast majority don't meditate. I said, "Well, you should meditate." Because guess what? You have to visualize your character, and the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, why of that character. Who are you as that character? Where are you? You have to visualize all this stuff. That's your imagination. You have to build that muscle. And none of us, most of us, we can say, I grew up in a great house with a vivid, we did this, the whole house is creative, blah, blah, blah. It can always be improved. It can always be improved. Do you have the will to tie it back to that, to work on this stuff every single day? I see. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I know that, when you and I first met, one of the things that why we hit it off is because, not just because Andy Wolk had been a part of both of our lives, a great writer and director himself, but also because we know we're standing on the shoulders of everybody that helped us and everybody that taught us something. Every teacher, even the ones that were like a bit of a pain in the butt, but they taught you one thing that you'll never forget, right? So that's partly you got to, we got to give respect and say I'm standing on the shoulders of a whole village of people that, and everybody is. Everybody is. And then when you get to my age, my whole thing is about like I just want to help my beloved family, my beloved wife, my beloved friends who are like family, and frankly, complete and utter strangers. I just want to add. I just don't want to subtract. I want to just help anyone that if I can do anything to help you, I will. It's because now I'm a senior citizen according to AARP. and every other I'm getting a lot of senior citizen stuff, now. So, um, now it's time to give back. It's time to help the others so that I help them, and someday they can say, Kevin Kilner, I'm standing on partially on his shoulders too. And you pay it forward. Everybody needs to pay it forward. I've always just believed that.
And that's something that I really love about you, Kevin. I remember during the pandemic, I reached out, we were texting, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm on a truck delivering meals to families." And I what I
I was
love about you,
delivering
Kevin, is like,
groceries for 6 months.
yeah, and I mean, like, if the people who are listening go look you up after this, first of all, most of you listening have probably seen Kevin's face. You've been everywhere. I grew up watching you. Um, but what's amazing is that you're one of those actors, as amazing, incredible as your career has been, you are just so down to earth, and I think that's part of the reason why I reached out to you. It's not just because, like, we know each other and you've been a great friend to me over the last few years, but because I think that you're someone who people can readily connect to. You're someone who's like, many people in my position would, like, kill to have your career, and at the same time, again, you're down to earth, you're respectable, and we can see the human behind the camera.
Thank you. Thank you. Very kind of you.
One thing I wanna ask you about, this long career you've had is, what's kind of the biggest change that you've seen within the industry from when you got started to how things are now?
The withdrawal of the human being. So all the auditions now are self-records. In my day, when you started, you went into a casting office. You met the casting directors, you met their very lowly paid associate who was trying to become a casting director. You met the assistant casting director who wanted to be the head casting director, and you met the casting director. Even for commercials, you did everything in person. There was a give and take. The little conversations that you and I are having, you would have with them before and after. I would ask casting directors who I was seeing repeatedly, "How's your family?" I found out, I would do a little research. I found out they had 2 kids. You have a boy and a girl? Yeah, my mom taught kindergarten for 30 years. I grew up around helping kids out. I mean, I worked in my mom's classroom. My sister and I both did, you know, and led to little conversations which built amazing human connections. What's the biggest change? Because of technology and because of horrors like COVID, which is a horror. I mean, we can never forget that 1 million people died in this country from it, and many more people have been deeply affected from it and will be affected for life, and it will cut their lives short. And never forgetting that, um, the industry has gone autonomous. Actors are responsible for all their self records. My voiceovers are all sent in from a booth that I had to pay for and build. All the technology that I had to pay for to get a soundproof booth, as you are with this podcast. I have a light. I have lights right here as I'm talking to you. I had to upgrade my computer. I had to get in. There was a time when the computers didn't have good microphones. You had to have a lob or you had to have headphones. If you're auditioning, you put the lob on your collar. You had to have good light. You have to, then you have to learn how to transfer all that stuff in the Dropbox or WeTransfer or whatever your transfer service is. It doesn't matter. Um, and with that, I have seen more and more directors, casting directors, argue that they can look at 2 to 3 times as many actors for every role. I personally feel that we've already learned from social sciences that if you give human beings too many choices, it becomes confusing, and that too can become a waste of time. There was a time when the casting director was trusted, and I feel sorry for casting directors. Not only were they paid for and their studios paid for to hold casting sessions, but they knew the actors really well, and they could say to the director, "I'm gonna save you a lot of time. I've got 6 actors who would all be brilliant in that role. I'm gonna just call those 6 in. You're not gonna look at 66. You're gonna look at 6." Now they look at 66, and they think it's a cool thing because they go, "Oh, I can look at it." And they literally look, and I'm not exaggerating, they probably look at in some cases, they may look at you for 10 seconds and then just go, "No, that's not the look. That's not the look." And so I think that decision making has been sped up, our attention span, as with everything else in life, because of technology. There are many, many brilliant, wonderful things about the internet and technology. There are many things that are harmful, and one of them, as we all know, and as one of the many harmful things is that people don't have the patience to actually consider something other than what was in their head or imagination about a particular role. And so the biggest thing, and it's a tremendous loss. The thing is, how CM, it's like, if I'm directing an actor, even if it's a commercial, and I haven't met the actor in person, because if I meet an actor in person, even if they nail the audition the first time, I'm always going to give them some direction to just see if they can take direction in case we change the idea on the set,
Sure.
right? That doesn't happen anymore. You may have an interview over Zoom as we're doing now, or something akin to what we're doing right now. But it's rare that you're actually going into a room. Now, that's still, you still go into the room. I just went in for a callback on a brand new play at Studio Theater in DC Tuesday. And so theater is still seeing you. But even in theater, the initial audition is generally recorded, and then the callback will be in person. With film and television, I don't, I haven't walked into a room to meet a director or a casting director, and I can't tell you how long. And I'm sorry, but as you know, and I hope all actors know this. On stage, there's three kinds of energy. Also in front of a camera, three kinds of energy. There's the obvious energy between me and my partner or partners in the scene, between the actors. There's the energy that is going on between the audience off stage or off camera and the actors. There's an energy. And in the case of when you're in front of a camera, there's a crew back there. And you literally can feel their energy if you've tuned your instrument to the place, in my humble opinion, truly my humble opinion, it should be. You can feel energy because crew, however small, crew are watching and they are reacting. And you'll get crews who nod and when director says cut, they'll go, wow. Or you'll hear something subtle like that. You feed off of that. And then, most importantly, and as I'm working with on my students who are just beginning they're just beginning their journeys as actors, the first thing you work on is the energy and the truth within yourself, the communication with what you're feeling. That is lost when the human being doesn't meet you, the director doesn't meet you, the casting director doesn't meet you, um,
Yeah.
and I think that's a massive mistake. I don't know how it is in England. I don't know how it is in Australia or Canada, the other English-speaking countries in their film and television industries. I hope to goodness they're still meeting actors in person. In England, a British director once famously did for my wife said she came in ready to do 2 or 3 scenes, and she said, "Okay, we've had a nice little introduction, but should I just get up and do the scenes?" And he said, "No, no, let's sit down. Let's have it." He called it chat. And she
What's
said,
that?
at the end of the chat, she said, "What's the chat?" And for 30 minutes, he just got to know her. And he said, in my callbacks, I do that with every actor in a callback. I want to know who I'm working with. I want to know who I'm working with because it's very intimate. Sometimes you have to, here's another thing I'll give any actor who's listening to me. I have a wonderful gentleman, Tim Phillips, is a wonderful acting teacher, and he teaches in Los Angeles, and he comes to New York to teach workshops as well. He's been around for 50 years, 60 years. Tim's probably in his 70s now. He's worked with Robert Duvall numerous times. He's a personal friend of his. He teaches acting mostly for the camera. However, Tim is the one who gave me the wonderful metaphor. Actors are emotional firefighters. We run into the burning buildings of feelings that 99% of the world would run out of. People don't want to feel
Ooh.
the horrors and the griefs, the sadnesses, the heartbreaks, the terrors that we have to feel in order to tell a story truthfully, as to quote Sanford Meisner, truthfully under imaginary circumstances. What is your job as an actor? To recreate the truth of my character under imaginary stand. Where do we find the truth? In life. So actors are emotional firefighters, and we're paid to do the stuff no one else wants to do. And we're expected to do that because the world would go crazy without proper storytelling. We are wired to tell each other stories. If there was no film, television, or theater, or even books, nothing. Human beings would still be doing this around the campfire or, in the village square or whatever. we'd be telling each other our stories because that's how we learn. That's how we codify our life. That's how we answer, frankly, the existential questions of what am I doing here? Why am I here?
Yeah, I love
You
that.
know,
Emotional
so
firefighters.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you know, to get back to your question of what I'm doing now, look, I did a guest star earlier this year. I auditioned for mostly for reoccurring and guest stars for leads in plays. Some of them are on the road, and I just frankly say, no, I don't want to go on the road. If it was a great role, maybe. If it was a sure enough run, maybe. If it had a chance to come to New York, probably, definitely. But at my level, at this point, Broadway you've learned that unless you're lucky enough as in, there's a couple of recent examples of people who have made it to Broadway who are not big film or television stars. But then you have many examples of, whether it's Robert Downey Jr., who's at Lincoln Center right now, George Clooney, who's coming in. You've got to be a big star to open a Broadway show. So for me, it's either off Broadway or off Broadway, which is fine. I don't have a problem. I would be happy to do that. But again, I don't work any different in the theater. I've worked in 99 seat theater. I've worked in 50 seat theater, and I don't work any differently. I've worked in 50 seat theater that was waiver theater in Los Angeles, where you basically got gas money, honest to goodness. And I don't work any differently there. I work just as hard on that role as I do when I did Smart House on the Disney Channel or Home Alone 3 at Fox, or you know what I mean? It's no different. I can't work differently. I do I'm answering my questions, who, what, where, when, why about the role, the character. I'm doing my research. I'm talking to wardrobe. I'm thinking about, I always start with shoes. My father taught me that. He's like, oh, men look at other men's shoes, so always have your shoes shined. He always told me that. He wouldn't let me leave the house without that. And I thought he was crazy, until I went out in the world and I realized, and I could see men with the glint of their eye, the quickness, the speed of almost of a blink, where they would like give you the once up and down. They give you the once up and down. What are they looking at? Looking at how you're dressed, what shoes you wearing. Don't think human beings are not so far removed. We're still the human animal. We are Homo sapiens. And so all those elements are worked on no matter what you're doing. If I get hired to do a commercial or industrial film, I'm still thinking about that, what I gotta do and the role and all that. You want to embody it as well as you can. And in the case of comedy, you have to figure out how to make the stakes so high that it actually becomes funny. It has to be very truthful, but it becomes funny. I'll tell you a real quick story about Home Alone 3. We're on the set, and it's a scene that's in the movie where I'm cooking. And in the kitchen, they said, "Oh, you're gonna have this cute apron, and you're just cooking. That's it. That's all the director told me, right?" And I'm going, it's gotta be something else. How can I make this funny? I start talking to the prop guy. I said, "You got anything like," he goes, "Well, I got a spatula." The guy said, "You got a funny spatula?" I was literally talking to the prop guy this way. And he goes, "No, but I got this glove. I got this heating mitt that looks like a lobster claw." I said, "Bingo, give it to me." And you
That was
see
you?
me in the movie go like this with the claw, which
Yeah.
I knew I had asked about the framing, which all actors should do. You should ask your director, like, what's the series of shots? Are you gonna do it just in a master? You're gonna do a two shot? You're gonna do a tight, you're gonna do an extreme close up or just a close up? Yeah, we're gonna go through this order. And then you realize, well, if it's gonna be close up, I have to bring the prop into the frame. See how my hand comes up into the frame now, right? I realize that whatever thing I'm doing, if I'm writing or if I'm looking at my phone, I got to bring it up to the frame so they have a reference of what I'm doing. So I figured out the line where I would do the scratch of the nose, and it was a perfect line and a perfect prop. So kudos to that wonderful prop person for helping me, and me just, while they're assembling the set and fixing the lights and all, I'm still working on it, man. And people tell me, "Oh, I love that. It's a funny moment with it's like a guy, it just looks silly. It's like a lobster, like, scratching his own nose, it's funny. Cute, it's cute, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like you just have to fill every moment. So, again, I don't work differently on that movie than I have on a role in a theater where I'm getting gas money.
I'm not just saying this. It was genuinely, like, my favorite movie growing up, and what I noticed
Oh,
about your career, And you even mentioned before we started recording that, somebody had mentioned to you like, "Oh, you play a lot of dads. Like, is there some content you can create around that?" Well, I wanna ask you about these roles that you've played. You've played a lot of father figures. A lot of your movies are very family friendly. You did a guest star on Bull a couple years ago that was very much like kind of a divergent from that, but from what I can see, the bulk of your career, family friendly, wholesome. What is your perspective on being typecast or being put in a box? Because I feel like a lot of young actors, especially coming out of school where so much of our training, we're able to play all these different characters, different ages, we're bending, we're breaking stereotypes and everything. What for someone whose career has been kind of in a very specific circle, how do you feel about that?
I hate it. I hate it. I mean, I make a joke. It's a joke, and I make it so that I laugh because, you can go to IMDb and figure out how old I am. I'm 66 now, but I would say from age 55 till now, over the last 10 to 12 years, I'm basically in film and television. The only thing that's really offered to me are occasionally I still get the wholesome guy, but mostly it's toxic white males, period. And um, this is just going to sound stupid, and it's just true. I mean, I have a handful of African American male African American friends from back in the day, who I've known for over 20 years. And they just wanted them to play criminals and pimps. And now, what do I play? Toxic white males. So I know, and do I think it's just me? No. That's the industry. The industry, look, I played a lot of dads because the first time I played a dad, the first time, and I think actually, I'll be honest with you, other than some television guest stars, the first time I played a wholesome dad really was Home Alone 3. That Home Alone 3 led to A Cinderella Story, led to Raising Helen, then American Pie 2, I had a little brief thing where I created this. Everybody remembers that scene. Well, that scene wasn't even written. It said "Goofy Dad in the Backyard," and I knew the director from two other movies, and he called me up. And he said, "I got nothing, but we got to create it out of whole cloth, and I only got enough money to pay you a day rate. Would you like to do it?" I said, "Yeah." Movie goes out to make almost 300 million. I have like 20 to 30 thousand dollars in residuals from a day where I was paid $800. Eight hundred
Ooh.
bucks. So he and I create and I think actually I was with the second unit director because it was a Saturday. I was shooting on a Saturday in Long Beach to do
Mhm.
that. I mean, all this stuff where other actors be like, "Do I want to go to Long Beach for?" Yeah, I don't even want to do it. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did. Paid a lot of bills. You know what I'm saying? And then we
Okay.
had fun. Mainly, the most important thing is I got to act. I got to do the craft that I want to do. I think the hard thing, especially for young actors, is we are all of us trained to do everything. Now, this is slippery very quickly and complex because I am for we must reflect the America and the society and the world we live in. And we did not see people of color. We did not see women in certain roles. And that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. That has got to all go away. And I'm grateful that the Casting Society of America now has, for years now, gives an award for the casting director who most reflects the society in which we live in. It's an annual award. Go look. Forget the name of it, but I was in the SAG boardroom for 4 years, so we worked hard at the Screen Actors Guild boardroom to get them to do this.
Okay.
And I can't get around the body that I embody. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Why do I play dads? And maybe it's the karma of my mother taught 5-year-olds for 30 years. As my wife says, children naturally come to you and are not afraid of you, and animals do too. She goes, "I don't get it." Like there's some magnet in you, and there's something, and I bless my mother all the time and my father who taught me, never to talk baby talk to a young kid, but a young human being, excuse me. Um, to as my mom made me use the Socratic method with 5-year-olds. She asked them. She said, "Don't tell them what to do. Ask them questions. Respect them." So, we are trained to be able to do any role. We get into the professional world and we realize, oh, the audience and first the casting community and then directors, they see us as certain. They go, oh, I he's perfect for the story I'm envisioning. Well, the story, frankly, has been mostly about the white race. You know, if you look at the history of film and television, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
it we have to tell stories, everyone's stories, and we have to populate all those stories truthfully. But we can't lose. I don't want to lose track of the creativity where we should be able to cast anyone in any role that is what I would call an ambiguous role, where it can be a man or a woman, it can be a person of
sure.
color or not color, it can be someone who's sexually oriented this way or not oriented this way. Let's do it all. You
Yeah,
know, now, the reality at my level, which is now mostly guest star and occasionally reoccurring, and is that's what I'm being offered is you governors, senators,
yeah,
businessmen who are not good guys, who are toxic.
sure.
Um, the role, I'm sorry, you mentioned the role that I did on
Bull.
where you said the opposite of, I'm forgetting the TV show all of a sudden. That was the opposite
You
from that guy dad. I was the pedophile.
Bull, Bull
Bull.
on
So
CBS
in
show.
Bull, so this is the phone call I get. I had it's and this is true story, Hasim. I it was before like this time of year. And I needed work. I mean, I wasn't working enough, in my humble opinion, and to pay some bills, literally. And
Yeah,
so I needed a gig. At the same time, I had said, I'm tired of playing like toxic governors, senators, and guys that do evil things.
yeah,
And I get this call, and and this is how the phone call went. My manager goes, "Hey, I have some. I think it's good news. I mean, it's good news, but I need to talk to you about something." And I said, "Okay, fine." So I knew it was good news, bad news. And he said, "The good news is that Bull called, and they would love you to do the lead guest star on their next episode, and it starts shooting next week." And I said, "Great. Okay, what's the bad news?" They said, "Well, um, he is a pedophile." So I said, "Okay,
oh,
can you have them send me the script?" And they sent it to me, and I read it, and I thought I saw in the writing a couple of places. I had an immediate idea to at least show him as a human being, and my main idea was that what he did had been done to him, because I think a lot of what happens with abuse is you were abused in the same way as a child, and actually, social
sure.
science has not proven this is true.
Yeah,
Pedophiles usually had it done to them as well. So I thought, okay, can I make this guy human? Can I give him any humanity whatsoever?
yeah.
And I thought, yeah, I can. But there was a moment when I finished reading the script and it was late at night, and I had to give the decision the next morning. And I said to my wife, I just can't believe I'm at this place in my career. I hate this. I hate it. And it's the holidays, man. I mean, do I want to go into it's a pretty dark place I got to go to. I'm gonna have to visualize what was done to me. I'm gonna visualize what I did to the young man who's sitting at the other table in the courtroom. I have to. And emotional firefighter, right? And then I told myself, you know what? This is the profession I chose. I see a couple opportunities. Put your big boy pants on, Kevin. Go do what you got to do. You got to pay bills. You got to be a good husband. You're trained to be a professional. And this story, however dark his character is, might, because in the end he gets the sentence and the young man gets justice. And maybe that helps someone watching the story somewhere in the world. In fact, I know it does. I know it does. My former manager who had retired calls me from Colorado, and he said, "I've seen you do a lot of things." And he said, "And that's that's a procedural show on a network where you don't think there's much care." Most procedurals, as I teach my students, they don't have a lot of character development for not for the series regulars have character development, have an arc, but
Yeah.
not for if you're doing a
Co-stars,
guest
guest stars.
right? Yeah, yeah, you don't have it. You're there to move the story along and give a lot
Yeah.
of information, right? But he said, "I've seen you do a lot of procedurals, and I've seen a lot of your work," and he said, "I'm here to tell you, you got me.
It
I
was kept
saw the young boy in you that had it done to him, and I
yeah.
saw regret, and just momentarily, but I saw it." You know what I mean? The big, powerful guy taken down. Those are the roles I play, so, you know.
I sympathize, with you being at a point in your career where you're like, "Ugh, these aren't necessarily the fun things that you're, like, running out to do," and the reason why I say I sympathize is because although the industry has changed and we're progressing in a really wonderful way, I'm still getting auditions for thugs and drug dealers, and it's 2024, and I'm still I keep a log of my auditions, and still for TV and film, that's about half of them. But I think the silver lining, both for me, maybe for you, as you said, well, 2 things. 1, where's the humanity, right? Can we give these people humanity? And 2, because these are real people that really exist in the world. And in order for the story on the other side to be told, right? For you, you were playing the villain in this story. In order for us to hear the hero side, in order for us to get the story of the hero, we need a great villain. We need someone who can step into that thing and not just be, I'm evil, but like you said, a human being behind it so that we can all get this incredible story that overall has a positive lesson or a positive outlook overall. So yeah, man, I think
You just encapsulated it. You just encapsulate. You just capture all of it. That's absolutely that is the formula. That is the truth. That is the truth of all
yeah,
storytelling.
yeah. And so
And
although,
like you could
yeah,
be in the Marvel universe where you're just evil and we don't know why you're evil. You know what I mean? I mean, I don't like the I don't like the dumbing down or simplification of any role. And if you're a trained actor, you're trained to bring many facets to the diamond of the role you're trying to craft. How is the diamond
absolutely.
made? It's a big hunky you create those facets and you hope that you've got this shining, memorable character at the end. And, sometimes your hands are tied. I'm in a Marvel movie and I'm Captain Evil and, I just do evil things. Nobody knows why. I mean, and they don't want to write about that. I don't agree with that. No offense. I mean, look, I've always loved action movies that there's a certain, I go to the Batman movies, things like that. But what separates the better ones from the worst ones? The better ones, the well done Batmans, we understand why people are the way they are, whether it's the Joker or whatever. I mean, we get it. They go into a little bit of the complexity of the backstory. The ones that don't do it well, frankly, they become forgettable. It is, but as I say to actors, look, the other thing about, and here's like my overall theory is like, again, I've done background work, industrial films, commercials. I did an under five on a soap opera once, and then I decided that day, I said, soap operas are not for me. Um, I've done guest stars, reoccurrings. I've been a series regular twice on Gene Roddenberry's Earth Final Conflict, which you can see episodes on YouTube for free, on the comedy, CBS comedy Almost Perfect with Nancy Travis, where you can see episodes for free. I've been the co-lead or one of the leads in indie films. I've been in big studio films like Home Alone 3, where I was a part of the ensemble, but, one of the leads in the ensemble. I've sort of, now it's like I've been on Broadway. I made my Broadway debut in Glass Menagerie, the 50th anniversary production with Julie Harris and an unknown Flockhart and an Emmy award-winning Jelko Ivanek. And I've done tiny little theaters I already expressed and everything in between, lots of regional theater. And how lucky am I? I mean, I know I give thanks all the time, more and more, because it's very, very hard to create any kind of creative life. If you're making any kind of original art, if you are a writer, if you are a poet, if you're an artist, if you are an actor, if you're a screenwriter, if you're a director, if you are a landscape, designer, how lucky are we all that we can look back and go, I got to live a creative life as opposed to, from in my case, and this is no exaggeration, I literally could have stayed on the 12th floor of a building in a cubicle as a credit analyst, a commercial credit analyst, big deal, you know, but or a commercial loan officer in a bank building where the windows don't even open. And I'd be lucky to have a window. You'd have to work 30 years to be a senior vice president and have a window. Otherwise, I was in a cubicle. A cubicle. It's like the
Yeah.
life of Gilbert, right? That comic strip.
Yeah.
So I look at the life I've had, and I oftentimes I honestly, sometimes I just start crying in gratitude, and trying to find grace about how beautiful, how blessed, how fortunate the people I would run into and help me, and um, so and so. I will never forget my second. I got my equity card in a regional theater production of Glass Menagerie. And then I get a phone call from a buddy who says, Ed Stern's going to be doing Streetcar Named Desire. He's doing it with this guy, Mike Chiklis, who's, he just starred as Belushi in this movie called Wired. And he's looking for, you'd be good at that. And I'm like, I remember the phone call. I was like, yeah, listen, I'm not going to beg anybody for anything. He said, no, you're right for the role. Here's Ed's phone number. Call him. I'm like, oh man, I'll never call a director at this point. I'm like 3 years into being an actor.
Oh,
I
wow.
said, "I've never called a director." They said, "Well, why not try it?" I did
Yeah.
it. I got the role. It was an incredible experience. Um, I worked with the greatest actress who ever did, Gordana Rashevich, who, uh, who played the lead, and she was unbelievable and electric on stage, and I never would have had that experience if a buddy of mine hadn't helped me out and then goaded me into making a call that I was uncomfortable making. So it's
Yeah.
all those things, it's all those things that you just say. So my advice to in particular to young actors or people beginning, not even young, if you're starting your career, is try everything. Try background work, try working in a crew on a set. Just be around the business. You know what I mean? Learn what a producer actually does, a line producer, as opposed to someone who runs the office. To find out what a writer's room is all about. Find out, trail a director. It doesn't matter. Try everything. There's nothing you can't learn from. I learned how to hit a mark and about feeling light on my face, feeling the light on my face in doing industrial films,
Huh.
so, training films for corporations. Woohoo. It's like but it paid me and I could pay some bills and guess what? I learned a few things for camera technique, you know.
This is, I feel like, such a great segue. We got just a couple minutes left, and I have one final question for you. You just described so many different facets of your career, and you've had an amazing career. And as humble as you are, and you shared so much gratitude for, being lucky to be, in the place that you are, to have the career you've had. But personally, I don't believe in luck. And so, what I would like to know, if you can hone in on it, what is the one quality that you bring to the table as a storyteller that you feel has led to this consistency that you've had in your career?
I think if you love it, then you have the will to do it daily, develop it, and then find the joy in what you're doing, and you're not afraid to take that joy into the room, into the casting process, onto the set, to the theater. Um, and actors are again trained to recreate the life around us truthfully under imaginary circumstances. So if you're a student of people and life, you can learn every day from everyone, from every little interaction, every little conversation. And to, I'm grateful. I'd say curiosity and will, curiosity and will, curiosity and will. Because will is really work ethic too. I mean, will and work ethic sort of blend for me personally. That's just my definition. Like
I love it.
I tell my students and I tell myself, I point the finger at my chest all the time. I'm telling myself when I'm telling my students and others that I help, try to help. Humility gets beaten into you because you realize how complex this world is and you realize how, you know, God forbid tomorrow I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time and I get T-boned in an accident and my neck gets broken, you know what I mean? Or I'm dead or I'm paralyzed. We all know there's luck involved, but I tell them you have to work like heck to get lucky. You get luckier the harder you work. You create, and I won't even use the word luck. Let me replace luck with fortune. You have good fortune the harder you work, the more joy you spread, the joy of just doing what you get to do. So, do you have to be in the right place at the right time? Yeah, but as I say to my students, then you have to deliver. You have to be able to deliver, and the only way you deliver is if you've been working on the craft every day.
Absolutely.
And I wish everybody the opportunity to be in the right room at the right or auditioning for the right thing at the right time, and all of a sudden, you're seen in a certain role, and a director says, "I'm gonna give you a bigger role in my next thing," and then all of a sudden, and I have friends that's happened to, their career changes overnight.
Yeah. Well,
And you go as far as you can go, I mean, you work as hard as you can for as long as you can and know that life is gonna be fickle.
man, wow, Kevin, beautiful, beautiful words, incredible wisdom. I grew up watching you on my TV screen, and it's kind of surreal to be able to sit here and call you a friend and a mentor at this point. So just thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. Can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming onto the show. If you enjoyed this interview with Kevin, please go ahead and check out a recent interview I did with HBO's Demaya Gurley. You're sure to love that one as well. And that's it for today. Big thanks to all of our listeners for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. If you're streaming, give us a follow. And if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button so you never miss a beat. That's it for today. Big thanks to all of our listeners for tapping into this episode of The Actor's Instrument. If you're streaming, give us a follow. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you never miss a beat. The Actor's Instrument is a presentation of Red Letter Entertainment. Executive producers Adam Jellicourse, Serena Esposito, and yours truly. I'm Hasim Muhammad. We'll be back next Tuesday. Till next time, y'all. Peace.